Crystal Ball College Football. I'm your host, Grayson, and today we're going to do a little preview of this matchup with Baylor and Texas Tech. Baylor travels to Lubbock. Tech is a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under is 61 points. Tech's coming off of a big win over West Virginia, 48-10. They really dominated that game. Things have really changed for them since they added Baron Morton to their starting lineup. They replaced Donovan Smith with him, and then, of course, Tyler Shough is back now. So we'll talk about that here in a minute, but Baron was very good again, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I felt like the run game was a little bit different this week for them. They haven't been overly successful running the football, but in this game, 239 yards on 4.5 yards per carry. That's really good against a pretty decent West Virginia defensive line. I felt like this was maybe one of those situations where Tech built a big enough lead that it was kind of one of those things where West Virginia kind of took their lumps and then Tech was able to run the football a lot, especially late in the game. And the defense played well. They forced 4 turnovers, only allowed 282 yards of total offense. Like I said, they expanded that lead and forced West Virginia to be very one-dimensional and have to throw the ball a ton. I was impressed by that. Tech played really well, and now they're 4-3, 2-2 in the conference. And they're in a situation where they're just trying to be a dark horse, trying to be a spoiler for other teams, while also, hey, if we went out, we could be in the conference championship. So they're in a very similar position to the team they're about to play this weekend, which is the Baylor Bears. Baylor knocked off Kansas 35-23. Baylor was up 28-3 at halftime. It could have been even more. They missed some opportunities in there as well. Kansas also gave them some opportunities during that half, but the lead could have been really, really big instead of just 25 points, which is still obviously a lot. Kansas moved the ball a little bit in the second half. They made a nice comeback, but ultimately Baylor was able to run the football and finish off this game in the fourth quarter and put away to give them the win. Baylor ran for 273 yards on 4.8 yards per carry. They got their dominant right tackle, Khalil Keith, back. He played about 50% of the snaps. Him and Gavin Byers were rotating, but for Keith's first performance of the year, I was very impressed seeing what he was able to do to help their run game. I expect we're going to see more of him this week against Texas Tech. Freshman running back Richard Reese, who's having a breakout campaign. He had 186 yards rushing in that game, was very, very good. And the defense only gave up 288 yards of total offense to a really, really good Kansas offense. All the metrics point to them being a good offense. So they are one, even with Jason being a quarterback, and Baylor really shut them down. So now, let's dive into this matchup. Late night game. Patrick Mahomes is being inducted into the Ring of Honor, the Hall of Fame. We know Joey McGuire's been waiting for this one. He put his name in the hat to be the head coach at Baylor when Baylor went with Dave Aranda. He coached on the Baylor staff for a while, and now he's at Tech, got his own job as a head coach. And you know, they've circled this game, as has Baylor in my eyes. You know, with Joey McGuire there, you know these guys who Joey coached with and obviously coached as far as the players go. You know they've circled this game as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of emotions going into this game. And it's going to be an electric environment. A Halloween weekend, a night game for Texas Tech. It's always really, really fun to watch. So a couple key matchups I have for this game. Baylor's rushing attack is averaging 197 yards per game. That's 27th in the nation. Tech is giving up 136 yards, which is 55th in the nation. Something's got to give there. I really do think Tech has to keep Baylor under 200 yards rushing. If they don't, they're probably going to lose this game. On the flip side, Tech is averaging 364 yards passing, which is 3rd in the nation. Baylor's giving up 233 yards passing, which is 80th in the country. Baylor's got to find a way to keep them under 400 yards or they will likely lose. So 2 pretty easy numbers there that I think will definitely dictate the game. Different philosophies, but both will be very, very fun to watch. As far as the turnover battle, both these teams love to shoot themselves in the foot. They absolutely love to. Both are 94th in the country in turnover margin. Baylor has forced 8, and they've lost 11 turnovers. Tech has forced 10, lost 13. But I love looking at trends. Trends definitely matter in college football. How are you looking as of late? and it's not looking good for Baylor. Baylor has 7 turnovers in the last 2 games, in large part due to its quarterback, Blake Shapen, with fumbles and interceptions. On the flip side, Tech only has 1 turnover since shifting to Baron Morton at quarterback over the last 2 games versus Oklahoma State and West Virginia. 1 turnover compared to Baylor's 7. If that trend holds, that is bad news for the Bears going into this matchup. Obviously, the environment, everything like that is going to favor Texas Tech. I think that, that's pretty obvious. The good news for Baylor is they've been on the road. They played at BYU in an electric atmosphere early in the season. They went to Ames and beat Iowa State in an electric atmosphere. So they had 2 very key matchups on the road. Won one, lost one. Now they go to Tech, another crazy atmosphere, which will be fun to watch. So my take on this game, I think it's going to be one of those where Tech is going to have an advantage throwing the football. But my issue with Tech's offense is their efficiency in the pass game. They're 69th in the nation in passing efficiency. So the numbers look great, but they're not efficient throwing the football. You're going to see a lot of screens. You're going to see a lot of short passes, and they're going to hope to break tackles, make some plays in the open field. But Baylor's pretty good at stopping things that are close to the line of scrimmage, and they're good at taking away deep shots, which Tech wants to create explosive plays. Baylor's been pretty good at taking those away. So Tech's going to have to be methodical, and based on what they've done this year, methodical is not exactly what they're going for on the offensive side. You're also going to see them try to go for it on 4th down very often, as you will with Baylor. That's probably going to be a very key stat too. I expect Tech to at least to go for it probably 6 to 8 times, and Baylor will probably go for it probably 4 to 6 times. I think it's going to be a high-risk, high-reward type game, and most times that favors the more physical team. And that is the biggest question for me. Who is the more physical team? And I think that's a great question, because I think conventional wisdom would tell you, hey, Baylor runs the football really well. They're big in the trenches. They're the more physical team. But if you've watched these 2 teams play throughout the year leading up to this game, I think you'd be hard-pressed to say that Baylor is the more physical team. Tech plays really hard. They have an edge about them. So is Baylor going to flip that switch, or is this just who they are, and is this who Tech is? I don't know the answer to that, but what I do know is if Baylor matches their intensity and matches their edge, then I think Baylor's got a very nice shot to win this game because of their advantage up front on the offensive and defensive lines, and their advantage defensively to make Tech inefficient. And efficiency, in my eyes, is the other huge part of this. Effort, will, how hard you play, how physical you are, along with efficiency, is going to determine the outcome of this game. If I were to project it right now, I got Baylor winning this one 34-30. I think it's going to be a really, really good game. Another very entertaining one in the Big 12. Very, very excited to see how this one pans out, and excited to just see the emotions and see that crowd. I know Lubbock is going to be rocking. It's going to be a lot of fun. This rivalry has been a very fun one. It's been at AT&T Stadium for a long time, and it finally moved back in 2020 to being home and home. So I'm excited to see how the Bears do in Lubbock and see how the Red Raiders turn out in what is going to be a very, very fun game in the Big 12. So that's it for this week. I'll have my best bets on Friday, but thanks for listening to Crystal Ball College Football.